Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 23rd day of January, 2019. Today is Wednesday. That's Mercury's day. So if you're going to do any magic today, it might involve communication and bringing balance and reason back to people, or one person in particular. But being a 23, that reduces to 5, so it's a 5 numerology today. So we're looking at energy of change. 5 also represents the pentagram. So earth, air, water, fire, and spirit. And how we manifest that, really, in our lives. It's a symbol for protection, not the devil. A symbol for justice and honor. And even when it's inverted, all it means is that there's a focus on ego and a focus on physical matter, physical form, a focus on physical desire. Hence the devil, which is really just the shadow side of self, if you want to call it that. But no devil. We label too much. I think we try to overdefine everything. I know I do that. I try to overthink things, and I get into all kinds of trouble when I do that. It's like I've made something way more complicated than it needs to be. I need to grab my tea here, down here. But I do. I overcomplicate things and I overthink things, and you want to categorize everything into these minute details. And I used to tell my kids, and I can't remember what physicist said this, but I believe it was a physicist who says, when you name something, you limit it. You limit it. Anytime you define something, now you've defined it. This is what it is. It can't be that or something else. It's just this, right? So if we define people as just this or just that, then we keep them in the prison of our own perception, don't we? We've been talking a lot lately. Some of the cards and runes I've been pulling have to do with interactions with others and whether or not we can connect with others in empathy and love and unity, or if we're always at loggerheads, or we're doing things that are really in service to self versus service to others. So when we think about a 5, we can think about bringing all of that together in a way that manifests something that's integrated and whole, and a balance between mind, body, and spirit. At least that's how I see the pentagram. Other witches may go, oh my God, what is she saying? That's what happens when you're not in a coven, It's all on you. How you see magic, how you see the world, how you experience things when you're a solitary witch. But that's okay. It's not that we don't look to see what other witches are doing or what other witch authors are writing about, because we do. Or that we don't peruse all the old grimoires for this or that correspondence, because we do. We don't start in a vacuum. So it's just some of us don't really, want to be part of a bigger group. That's all. You don't have to be. I would even argue that probably most aren't. So anyhow, let's count 13 and see what we have for this magical day of change. Well, we have the Fool. Undeveloped potential. Up a little closer. So we see him on the precipice of something new. He's about to take the leap of faith into the unknown, into life, into form. We see the sun above. The sky is brilliant, isn't it? The sun's rays are making the sky a brilliant yellow. He's ready to take the leap into existence, a leap into form. He's got his knapsack over his shoulder. He's got, looks like a rose there in his left hand, a white rose signifying purity, purity of motive, purity of expression. His dog is at his side, ready to go with him, or saying, "Are you nuts?" Card 0 of the major arcana. We begin in unity consciousness, don't we? And then we take the leap through the veil, through the clouds. You can see the clouds below, kind of to the side. It looks like clouds. Could be white snowy peaks though too. But if you're looking at them in terms of clouds, then you're going into the unknown, aren't you? And that's really what happens, although we think that's what happens. We actually come into this life already knowing what it is we want to do. And the overall theme of our lives, we already know what that is. And that's decided before we come into form, who we're going to do that with and who our family will be, who the greater, significant others that will come through our lives, It's so odd because I'm an Ancestry.com junkie. I went looking for, I just thought that there would be witches on my maternal side. Now, there could be, but because I have the requisite grandmother from County Kerry, Ireland. Okay, she came over here to this country when I think she was 18 maybe, when she and some of her family came this way. I don't think everyone came though, but I'm not positive about that. But I think it was just a handful of them that came. Maybe others came later, I don't know. I never knew that part of the family, just my mother's, brother and sisters. So I didn't know any of my grandmother's extended family or anything. So I don't have any other. So I could only get back so far. I could get back to her parents and maybe to their parents, but I can't get back any further. So I then decided, okay, I'll go and look at the paternal line, and there I hit the mother lode. Okay, and that's where I found the Merovingian history and the Plantagenet and all the royalty and all of that nonsense. And so, and then I started researching some of these people and discovered I went to the lists of witches that were burned, and I found also my 14th great grandmother before the like 100 years before the North Berwick witch trials began, by King James the Sixth of Scotland. He was also the King James the First of England. His mom was Mary Queen of Scots. Anyhow, he's the one that started the North Berwick witch trials. Francis, the Earl of Bothwell, 5th Earl of Bothwell, he's actually the one that caused all the ruckus and spread the lie that started all of it, because he wanted to be king. And because he couldn't, his nose was out of joint, and so he knew that James was all about the occult and all of that. So he started something, and a lot of people died as a result. But about 100 years before that, I think it would either have been his grandfather or great-grandfather, King James. He was also a James. Anyhow, he ordered my 14th great-grandmother burned for witchcraft, and there's a statue of her over there now. She was Janet Douglas, Lady Janet Douglas of Glamis Castle, and it's said that she haunts the clock tower now. But there's actually, I believe, a statue I saw of her, a picture of it, of her in the town, because of what happened to her. So, that was awful. I mean, I went looking for that and I found it. Now, I haven't found anybody in this country that was burned in the Salem witch trials, but I've looked in Europe and there's quite a few. A lot of them are related to royalty, though. You had some that were imprisoned. Both Eleanors of Aquitaine have been imprisoned for it. I just, you find it. Sir Michael Scott was a magician. Um, let's see, King Solomon, of course, was a great, rabbi and magician, and a king, the House of David, and all of that. So I go back to all of that. I go both through Mary Magdalene and also through Mother Mary. She's a cousin. And so, anyhow, I went looking for all of that, and I found it, of course, on the other side of my family. Um, but anyway, the whole point of it is that when I was looking at the names throughout, you know, over in Europe. So, I mean, we're talking, in the 1600s, 1500s, all of that, all that time, right? I found names of people that I know here, and they're odd names. They're not like Smith or any. I mean, sure, Murphy, because I'm part of the whole Murphy clan, but and the Stewarts and all of that. So I'm part of all of that. But there were just odd names, names that aren't typical, and they're throughout my ancestry. And they're people I've met, just say in the last 20 years of my life. These names that I recognize, it's like, well, that's interesting. So when you think about it in terms of when we're coming into form, how much of that are we really choosing? And how much of that, these names carry forward into our experience? It was just I don't know, it just kind of resonated a little bit with me when I thought about it that way, because it was weird to see names of people that I've done business with, and just, it's like, wow. And again, they're not typical names that you hear. So anyhow, I'm going to draw another card though, and see if we can get a little more information about our undeveloped potential. What is brewing? I read that Donald wishes to come to Congress anyway, even though the invitation has been rescinded. Yeah, the speaker controls all of that, folks. You don't want to give someone a platform who's misbehaving. So I don't know, keeping people away from being able to pay their bills. No, you don't want to give that guy a platform. It's a privilege to be the president of this country. Death. The 13th card, full of magic and transition. There's the white rose up there. Death going into battle on his white steed. Well, if you reduce that and you don't consider it the master witch number like I do, number 13, then what you would do is you reduce it to 4, and that's structure and foundation. But death itself is a passage, and it's not necessarily something that is, a bad thing. It's just transformation, and it's about new opportunity. And so paired with the Fool, you have new opportunities and undeveloped potential for just about anything to happen. And death is usually thought of as a positive card. So perhaps we're going to see an end to the chaos and the nightmare. Maybe that's coming, maybe him saying, well, yeah, I'm going to see you there. I'll be there. And Nancy's like, well, we'll see. She wants is for him to open the government and to pay people. That's all she wants. And if he would do that and then discuss like an adult the issues at hand, forget about this whole wall business, talk about border security, shoring up areas where it makes sense, but not spending this kind of money, not money that could be better spent, to actually elevate people in this country. Or to pay down the debt. The debt that they've created by the ridiculous tax thing that they did. So now we've got all this debt, massive amount of debt. The Republicans don't like debt. They don't like deficits. Well, apparently they do. So, but basically, you're looking here with death about dying and becoming and rebirth, initiation even. And I think it pairs quite well with the Fool, doesn't it? So clearly we've got some energies that are either ending and beginning, something new, undeveloped potential for something good to happen. Not everything has to be in the crapper all the time. So I don't know. I think maybe we've got something going here. So, well, the dentist turned out to be expensive. I have to go back next Tuesday in the afternoon for a crown, and then maybe another, and another. Maybe a root canal along the way. Well, definitely a root canal. So root canal, crown. Yeah. Oh, well. Let's take a look at the rune. Oh, interesting. Alyi's. Well, this is the 15th rune of the Elder Futhark, and we're looking at numerologically, it's a 6. So that's higher self. And here you have, you see the points up top. It kind of, Alyi's represents, in terms of an animal, there's usually animal references for a lot of these runes, and this particular one is elk. And so you see the antlers, basically, here of the elk. But what it also represents is the rainbow or Bifrost bridge to consciousness. So basically what you have here is air, fire, and water are the 3, and then they move down into form, into earth. It can also symbolize, it also reminds me of drawing down the moon, of raising your arms in supplication to the moon. So there's that as well. Basically what you're acknowledging here with Alyi's is that we are more than what we are, that we are actually all of these emanations moving into us at all times. You could think of them as the rays of creation, but there's 7 of those. But the top 3 kind of are on their own, and then it's the bottom 4. So in a sense, you have, the bottom 4 that are active. So what that means then in terms of the Fool and death and undeveloped potential and whatever it is that we're going to create from this point forward, definitely it needs to have spirit informing the process. Otherwise, I don't know how we get out of this odd, us versus them mode that we seem to be in right now. And the willingness to allow people to be, to hurt and to live in uncertainty and fear. I saw a clip of the commandant of the Coast Guard, and I'm not sure who the gentleman was, probably another commander, maybe the assistant commandant, I don't know, of the Coast Guard. I saw that clip, and they've never had to, they just have never had to do this before. Okay. They've never had to deal with the fact that they don't have the money to feed their families. They don't get paid out of the same pot of money that the rest of the military does. And because of that, the Coast Guard is not being paid. They're protecting our waters, but they're not being paid. They have families, but they're not being paid. And so we have to get to a point where we decide that whatever the fight is in the government, it cannot affect the people. If we work for you, if there are other companies that contract to work for the government that are involved NASA, I read, is about ready just to be closed down for several months. They can't do anything. They don't have any money. They can't. I read that the FBI can't. Like evidence kit materials, they don't have any. They're running out. I was watching Rachel's show last night, and she mentioned it's a 72-page report from the FBI Agents Association. They don't have any tires. They're having to take tires off of vehicles not in service to be able to put tires on the vehicles for the FBI folks to do their jobs while they work for no money. So clearly we need a rebirth of something new, of some undeveloped potential here that to do something better than what we're doing. If this is just affecting you personally and it doesn't have anything to do with the shutdown, and these are just other issues in your life, perhaps you're going through something right now, a transitional period where you're trying to figure out, okay, which direction am I going to go in life? Again, with the shutdown, a lot of people are faced with the choice to leave the job that they can't get paid at and go find other work because they have to do something in order to, they're selling plasma, they're selling belongings. This is nuts for this guy to do this to everybody. It's just nuts. He could at any time, as could the leader of the Senate, at any time stop all of this. And yet they won't. Instead, it's all about in service of something else. And I'll bet you dimes to donuts, it isn't anything about that wall. It's about stopping the courts from being able to function and all the investigators from being able to function so that it delays what's going to ultimately happen to this guy. So ultimately, I don't know. He says he's going to keep the government shut down for as long as it takes, for years, if that's what it takes. So there you go. We need a different transition, though, don't we? We need to transition away from that kind of narrow thinking and one that actually understands the greater aspect of all of us and that this is harming people. But if it isn't that, then maybe you're just experiencing some things today where you need to allow spirit to inform the process. You need to have all of that. You need to have will and emotion and intellect in balance, whatever it is you're doing, and then manifest from that standpoint. That's basically what All Use is telling us to do. So will, emotion, and intellect in balance today. And if you do that, whatever it is you try to manifest, perhaps you'll manifest something that brings something totally new into your life. So when it's lately, we've had a lot of emotions, right? Astrologically, through the lunar transits, emotions have been a little crazy right now and in flux. The same with, I've been getting a lot of water, a lot of cups. So that's water element, which is emotions. I've been getting a lot of that in the readings. And so what this is saying is like, enough now. Okay, we've come to this point, and periodically, you get to those moments in life where, okay, let's make a decision here. We get at this crossroads moment maybe where now's the time. It's our make or break moment where we have to make a decision. And what I like about All Use, in fact, I wear this as an amulet. That particular rune is an amulet. I also wear Hagalaz. But what I like about All Use is it's telling me to keep my will and my intellect and my emotions in balance in everything that I do, which isn't always easy. So, being an empath, it's not always easy to do that. But in any event, that's one of the reasons that I wear it. It's also about the protection of spirit. It's far stronger than ego ever hoped to be. So that's why it's considered a protection rune as well. So anyway, I guess that's pretty much it. I don't think I need to draw a third card. I think when you get two major arcana cards like this and they're really talking about the same sort of thing, not being afraid to take that, to make that transition into something new, into a completely new direction. That's what needs to happen right now, collectively in our country. And it may be what needs to happen within us as well. So anyhow, I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming by. I'll be here tomorrow, and then I take the weekend off. I did the lunar transits for this period. I put them up yesterday. I don't know if I probably work on the book today, so maybe I won't write on the blog today, but maybe I will. We'll see what happens. We'll just have to see. sometimes I get inspired to do something. Anyhow, go check that out over there at imsteppingaside.com. Click subscribe here if you like, if you haven't already. If this is your first time coming, thank you so much. It's nice to see everyone today. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back. I appreciate it. And so be good to yourself and be good to one another, and blessed be.